Hello and welcome you crazy people to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today I'm going to be showing you how to make some Endor trees. Not the big ones that we've already done, which I'll try and put a card or whatever they're called up here in the top left. No, I'm talking about Endor trees that might look something like these. Self-made, pretty cheap. I'll get onto the cost possibly at the end, but I actually think they look pretty sweet. Now, if you do want to see more Legion content, do consider subscribing, which I think is probably down there, because I see a lot of people putting it at the start of the video, so I thought I will join them. But yeah, do consider subscribing. Other than that, yeah, we'll get into it. This video's took a little while because I sort of kept buying the wrong thing. So obviously you won't have this problem because I'm going to tell you what to buy. But yeah, we'll just get straight onto it. So just briefly on the things that you're pretty much going to need. You're going to need some balsa dowels. That's one of the things that I did get wrong. I bought some cheap dowels from B&Q. They were like pine. They're not suitable because you want to texture them. Balsa's the only sort of wood that is. You can get them fairly cheaply online or in a craft shop. But yeah, a balsa dowel. You'll need a brown spray paint. I'm using Mournfang brown, but you can pretty much use anything you like. A wire brush, some paper clips, something to base your tree on, which you could either use like EPVC or MDF discs that you can buy online. My discs, for example, here are 6 centimeters. You'll need probably a Stanley knife. You'll need some spray glue, and it needs to be spray glue, not stringy glue, which is actually quite hard to find. So I do recommend Blue Tack repositional glue. You'll need some thing to make like the substructure of your tree. Now I'm going to be using I forgot what's it called. It's coconut fiber, that's what it's called. Now there are a synthetic like fake version of it, which I did make a tree out of. I'm not a huge fan, but it does work well enough. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You'll need some flock, obviously, for the colour of your tree. You know, I'm just using blended grass and weeds. I think Woodland Scenics do a conifer kind of colour, which is sort of what this tree is. So yeah, so I cut my dowel to the height of the tree that I want. Then I believe the phrase is shafer it. Basically, I blend. I cut it to a point, but not like a fine point, like a pencil, just like a, it's thinner on one end, which is the top of the tree, and thicker at the bottom. Now, my recommended balsa dowel size is probably somewhere between 8mm and maybe up to 1.2mm. Maybe that might be a bit big, so let's say 8mm to 1 centimeter, 10mm. That's probably the best. Then once you've shaped it, what we're going to do, we're going to take a wire brush or like a very thick nylon brush and just run it up and down. Well, before you do that, you should probably actually sand it after you've chafed it. But well, yeah, you get your wire brush and you run it up and down, and you're basically trying to make a tree texture. It's hard to show on camera. We'll see it later on once I dry brush it. But it's very easy to do this part. I had a bit of fun, but you do end up with a lot of shavings. Do be careful once you've finished that. There'll be a lot of like small pieces of wood. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing it with your finger, but maybe just get some sandpaper and gently, sand it. But obviously, you're not trying to get rid of the detail. Then I basically just took a paper clip, shoved one end into the bottom so that I had something to stick it on later. I'm actually going to use some foam to stick it in later. I'm sure you could use, many different things. But I just had some foam handy. And then what you want to do, and I don't have footage of this, is you want to spray your tree brown. Or paint it brown, it's up to you, but you might as well spray it with the brown that you've got. So once you've sprayed it brown, next thing we're going to do, you could dry brush it, but as I said, we're going to spray it brown again, and a lot of your dry brushing is going to just disappear. So what I actually recommend is to skip that part and go straight onto your substructure. So as I said, we're using coconut fiber here. It's actually very cheap. I'm using like the liners for like baskets that you can get. It is quite cost though, so with your scissors, you don't you need some either really sharp scissors, but also possibly not your best scissors. And what we're going to do, we're going to cut out like, I'll say circle-ish shapes, and we're going to do like bigger at the bottom, getting thinner to the top. And you just, whatever the size of trees, I think I use maybe 5. That might be a decent number, but you could probably use 4 to 6, I guess. And you can see I'm sort of getting bigger at the one end and smaller at the other end, and just trimming off any of the stupid parts. And then you're going to glue this onto your stick at the right height. Now, you want to dry fit it first so that, everything looks right. And then we're going to glue it. Now, I would just recommend super glue because it sticks straight away. But you could use PVA if you want. I think I might actually use PVA on the video. But for my later trees, I just use super glue. It just sticks a lot easier and possibly a lot firmer. But yeah, you just put the glue on where you want it to be and slide your fibre to where it should be. Now, I'm not an expert on trees. I think the kind of trees that I'm going for aren't like pine trees or fir trees. I think I'm looking for a conifer, which I think has gaps. Now, if you're a tree expert, do not hate me. I don't really care about trees as long as they look fine. so just keep that in mind. I personally like the ones where it's a bit thicker and you can't see the actual trunk underneath, but it's up to you. You can make them any way you like. But obviously, these kind of trees are the ones where they've got one big trunk in the middle and then little branches like on layers off. You'll see what I mean at the end. So I'm doing some of this out of shot, but basically once you've glued them all on, what you want to do is just trim off any of the, random bits that you can tell are completely wrong. You will have ample opportunity to do this. I suggest doing this now and, at later stages. Trim off all the bits you don't want. So once you've got everything glued in place, what you want to do is spray it brown. Now, it's winter in the UK, basically. It's actually autumn, but it's very dark when I get home from work, so it's there's no daylight. So, there is at weekends, but you basically just want to spray it brown. There's nothing fancy to this. This is why I didn't dry brush it, because you're inevitably going to cover some of the bit that you dry brushed. But it's fine. Some people like to do it, do their tree differently from where they do their trunk, but I actually like doing it together. 1, it's quicker, and 2, you don't have any weird joins. Once I've sprayed it brown, once I've sprayed the substructure brown, then I dry brush every bit that I can reach. So that's the bottom of the trunk and the gaps in between the trunk. If you're doing more of a full-bodied tree, you won't necessarily have to do this. I try and show you on the camera. Hopefully the detail is visible. If not, I'll try and take some pictures. And then the next step, which can be a little bit messy, is we're going to spray some glue over it and put the flock over it. So apologies if I don't get this on screen, but I spray the repositionable blue tack glue, which I can guarantee is fine if you use the glue that I use. Every other glue, I don't know, and it can be quite expensive to glue. I think this glue's like £10, and I probably could only get 6 to 8 trees, 6 to 10 trees from it, so do be careful with, don't be like liberal in it, because it's a small tin and it's quite expensive. Anyway, you spray it on your substructure, your branches basically, and then you could dip it in, but I just sort of put it over this tub container and sprinkle it on. I use a dark weed colour. I would have preferred Conifer, I just don't have it, as my first layer, and then I again trim off some of the bits. I take like a dry brush and just take off some of the flock that sticks to the trunk in the middle, in the gaps, because I want the trunk to show. I don't want it to look like it's just covered in random leaves. You don't necessarily have to do that. I just did. Then I collect up the flock, put it away, because anything that doesn't get stick, you might as well keep. Then I take a lighter spray of the glue, and basically I put some blended turf on it from the top, so it looks like a highlight, basically. That's pretty much the bulk of the tree done. The way to seal this in is watered down PVA and or lacquer. So I actually use a combination of the two. I think I watered down PVA'd it, then I lacquered it. I could probably do with a final coat of watered down PVA. I don't think you can do too many covers. Don't drown it if you do that, but the lacquer is basically matte varnish. You want matte, you don't want gloss. You can get it for cars and that kind of thing. Actually really useful, but really, really smells. For basing the tree, I use 60mm circle discs. I was going to follow the demo table and have like a couple of trees together, but then I realized it would probably be awkward to store. And then what I do is I want to like bevel the edges. There's a special word for that, and I honestly can't remember it. But basically, I want to blend in the edges of the disc to the ground, so I take off the sharp corners. Then I'm going to just use hot glue to glue it to the base. Now, what I actually recommend here, I mean, hot glue's fine. I've used it on a couple of the trees, but what I actually recommend is the paper clip that we had in before. Is to cut it so there's a little bit left and use that as like so you're pinning it to the base. Now what I mean by that is I actually just drilled a hole straight through the base, put my pin through it and cut it off at the other end, and then sanded it so it was flat, and that probably gave me the easiest easiest way to have a straight tree that's fairly firm. The hot glue can be a bit wobbly until it dries. Whereas with the pin, you need less hot glue and it works straight away. You probably could use super glue and the pinning method if you don't have a hot glue gun. I just didn't try that. So I have 3 trees that I was trying, all glued to the base, 1 with the pinning method, 2 with just hot glue, all pretty much firm. For the basing of the tree, which I won't go into too much detail here, but basically I got PVA, sand, brown paint, and some filler, aka spackle. Basically making like a sterling mud version. I just whack it on the bases, nothing fancy. If you want to see a video of that, I think Luke APS is probably your best guy for that. But it's just a very simple way of doing the base, very quick way of doing the base. But yeah, I just dry brush on the ground, and then I use buff titanium as a further highlight. But it's just getting lighter and lighter. I'm fairly sure you probably at this stage know how to do a base, but if you don't, it's paint it brown and then dry brush it lighter browns to possibly white if you want to go that extreme. To finish, I just flock it with some weeds and blended grass, blended turf. You don't necessarily have to do that. I put a few plastic plants on it, my own little bush on one of them. That's pretty much the end of it. This isn't necessarily a tutorial on generic base garnishing, but it's fairly simple to do. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All in all, probably only took maybe like 3 hours time. They're actually really quick, and they're fairly cheap per tree. It's just a lot cheaper if you've already got some of the goods, basically. So there we have it, some really simple trees. I do recommend the matte varnish. It's pretty cheap on Amazon. You can get it for like £3. I would highly recommend that as a way of securing the flock after you've already put it on. Failing that, you can always use watered down PVA. I think matte varnish doesn't react with watered down PVA, so I've actually used a combination of the two. I need to give these one last lick of watered down PVA, mainly because I've not sealed in the bases, the flock on the bases. But I actually think they've come out pretty well. Now this is the tree, this is the tree that I pretty much made on the video, which is fine. I do like the substructure of the coconut fibre. My other one's downstairs. It's like this, but not as branchy, I guess. I'll try and put a picture on. You'll be able to tell which one's which. But this, I think, is part of is my favourite kind of tree. I could probably have done with doing it a little bit thicker at the bottom, but you live and learn. I'm going to be making more trees for my own personal use, so I'll just do it thicker at the bottom. But yeah, pretty sweet, I think, as I can't see anything that I'm doing. I'll just show you my base, because why the hell not? That's my basing. Yeah, you can tell it looks pretty sweet, I think. So you can see there, what I like about this is the texture on the tree. You can definitely see it. I went quite rough there, so there's some thicker like holes in it, but you can see it's got a nice texture to it, especially once dry brushed. That's just a fake plant. You can either buy them like from aquariums, or you can get them on Amazon or eBay, that kind of thing. And yeah, you can see it looks pretty good. And the fact that I've managed to dry brush it in between means that it's pretty much dry brushed everywhere, which I think is a really nice effect, shall we say. But yeah, so cost-wise, the glue's about £10. A brown spray is about £10. I used all of the glue after about 8 trees. I reckon you could get out of it. I've made some bushes and stuff like that, but I think 8 to 10 trees, possibly. Probably more if you didn't try and do a highlight by doing an extra spray. So you could possibly get 12 trees. The brown spray, I actually did a separate tree using like a Halford's brown paint. It's not even a primer, it's just a brown spray paint. And that was like £6. So you can do it a bit cheaper. Buying trees, are fine, but you can't necessarily buy trees that look like this, which is why I've decided to make them. But the materials themselves quite cheap. I haven't done like a cost benefit analysis for these, but I have done for some fir trees, and I've bought some of Knox ones, and I'll probably do a review on that. But it's the spray that's the most important part. If you can get a cheaper spray glue, it's the glue that's the most important part. If you can get a cheaper spray glue that actually sprays instead of being strings, you'll be quids in. Now you could possibly use hairspray, but I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that it holds it enough. But yeah, definitely I think they've come out really well. I'm looking forward to trying them on my Endor board. I'll try and put some pictures up so we can see it. Are we forgetting anything else? I can't think of anything else. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comments below. I'll try and, well, I pretty much will answer them if I can. Other than that, do like, subscribe, share this with anybody you think would be really interested in seeing it by the time Legion comes out. I suppose they're nice enough trees to just have on any wargaming table, but these are for Endor trees only. Well, they're not, but that's why I made them. Yeah, have a most beautiful day, and goodbye. Bye.